He is the greatest superhero of all time. And when you make $300 million, you got to come back for a sequel because as my man Vic Damone Jr. has taught me, it's called a money grab. And boy, did they go ahead and grab them some money with this right here, Superman 2. Listen, guys, we are here. We are Unpopular Review Entertainment, and we celebrate and honor Superman, the Man of Steel, by reviewing all the live-action Superman movies. That's right, y'all. Christopher Reeve was back, and to full another plot, or did he, by Lex Luthor as the General Zod. He said in Superman 1, I will get you, Jor-El, and your elders, ancestors too. And we shall find out here in Superman 2. We'll be right back, y'all. On Popular Views, the Wolf Pack. Ow!
The world is on the brink of destruction.
Superman, can you hear me?
And Metropolis is in ruins.
Superman, help us!
Is there no one on this planet to even challenge me?
Superman!
General, would you care to step outside?
The adventure continues in Superman 2.
Tonight's broadcast has been commandeered by the secret society No Man, National Organization of Men Against Amazonian Masterhood.
Welcome, everybody, back to Unpopular Reviews Entertainment, the Wolf Pack. I'm one of your hosts tonight, Mike Knox. Papa Knox, I'm joined by Vic Damone Jr. and Mr. Freckle Sensei. And we are talking about, again, Superman 2. This is the sequel. If you look at it, if you know movies, this movie came out in 1980, which means in 1978, when the other movie came out, this movie was already being filmed. And whether it had a success or not, they were going to pull this movie out because we watched the beginning of the first movie with General Zod. We knew then that when we saw this movie coming, it was going to be more to it because you know the Superman story. And we go back to those early days right there. They're taking over Krypton, if you will, so to speak. Vic Damone Jr., as we go through this beautiful movie, I call beautiful anyway, part 2, we look at this movie here in General Zod being put in jail by Jor-El and the father of Kal-El, Christopher Reeve, and that's where this movie takes us. This whole thing's about here. It's a revenge plot movie, but it starts off with Clark doing what Superman does best, saving Lois Lane, going off to France. Then a bomb exploded. It's the weirdest part of the entire movie for me. A bomb exploded and it ripple effect so much that it hit outer space. And it released them from the Phantom Zone. And that's where this movie really kicks into high gear at this point of the film. Again, these guys get released. They're flying. They're on the moon. They're knocking stuff down. They're going to Houston. All right. Or at the time, to destroy their learn they got new powers here on Earth, but we got Gene Hackman in prison learning everything there is to know about Superman. But a criminal mind like myself cannot be in prison. But meanwhile, you got Clark being Clark, and he's saving kids. That's what he does. Superman saves kids. He's always around to save a cat in a tree. Where is he at now? Chief says during this film. Lex Luthor escapes from prison. He goes to the Fortress of Solitude and he learns his secrets because who's a smarter man than Lex Luthor? Meanwhile, Lois is like, hold on, everywhere I go, you go. Everywhere Superman ain't you're at. You're not there. Are you Superman? She says, I'm going to prove this to you. I'm going to fall in. Come to find out at that moment, no, he's not. But then they fake it. Hand gets on fire. Oh my God, you Superman, I love you. I'll take my powers. I'll leave them just for you because I love you, Lois. I'm going to give up all the rest of the world for you, Margot Kidder. And look, come out looking like the suave 1980s Christopher Reeve. Look at that man, y'all. Just a fly human being. And then meanwhile, in the planet of Houston, General Zod's learning powers. This movie right here tells you Superman has more than what y'all know he having powers, because all kind of shit was different in this film. Okay, General Zod, they take over the world. Mount Rushmore, no, it's Zod's world. They take all the other faces. See you, Abraham Lincoln. See you, George Washington. Y'all all are off of here. It's my planet now. I'm going to take over Washington. Meanwhile, he gives up all his powers to go marry go marry Lois. Gets his ass beat in the bar. They say, where you been at, pal? This has been going on. Where you at? Where's Superman? Who is Superman? Bring him to me. Let me go back and walk in the coal and beg my other father to help me out so I can live. Meanwhile, Lex is on, I got a plan. Because Lex always has a plan. Right there, I'm going to stop it for right there, Vic. You go ahead. Your takes on Superman 2.
Well, it clearly was a money grab. You know? Like clearly, that's clear. But I mean, it was a faster story, clearly, because it just continued from the first one. Now, this is so giving Return of the Jedi. Like, it's not even funny. Like,
y'all know this was out before Return of the Jedi, right?
No, but it's just giving that whole vibe. Like, you know what I mean? Like that whole.
No, they didn't start it. Return of the Jedi didn't start it.
No. I'm saying they, as in this in Superman.
No, it's just that whole thing. Like it was very Star Warsy. The whole thing from space and all of that, and like that was the vibe at this time. You know, so they added a lot of that. You're fighting a whole bunch of aliens. You're doing this whole thing, like, you know. But at the same time, the way that they continued the story between Superman and Lois was brilliant. I think. I mean, the whole falling in Niagara Falls, I thought that was cool. Now that it made me wonder if how much of it was filmed in the actual Niagara Falls, and how much of it was like bullshit. You know what I mean? Because a lot of that looks pretty accurate. So I'm wondering like how they pull that off, because, you know, turning off those falls and doing that whole thing, that's a lot of money. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, I started looking at the logistics of this movie, and it was interesting. But
yes, it was filmed in Niagara Falls. So they went to all 3 locations to film this movie: Canada, England, France, Alberta, Canada, and Niagara Falls.
Wow.
Even a part of this film was filmed in Norway. I'm trying to figure out what part would it be. Maybe the Forces of Solitude. I don't know. But to answer your question, there you go.
Probably that makes sense. Now the one part that I forgot that he did was that he gave up his powers. Like, I completely forgot that he did that in this movie until watching it back, and I was like, oh snap, you know. So the writing is really good. You know what I mean? The storyline is pretty good. Like, you know, the CGI and the acting is still, you know what I mean?
There's a reason why they have, now we all know it, Vic, there's the Snyder cuts are being asked about by certain fans. This was the Donner cut because Mario Puzo also wrote this, who also wrote The Godfather, and they had to stop mid-movie for rewrites to do the movie over. And if you actually if you watch the film, at some point you can see the shifting of it change. It's like when Zack Snyder originally had to leave Justice League, and certain people took over that film. People felt the difference in it. Then when he got it back, you felt his take on it. And I always think that's interesting from a director's point of view, because to me, they're just showing the film. The writers, to me, are the real filmmaker who don't, to me, never get the credit, right? Because to me, that's what makes or break a film. They can look how if the storyline is dumb, it's dumb. Avatar: Last Airbender original movie was terrible, but the special effects wasn't as bad as the movie was, but they were still bad nonetheless. Go ahead, Vic. I'm sorry.
No, it's just the story was good. You know, it's once the story is good, you can kind of get lost in the story, as opposed to stop being criticizing like the special effects and all of that. So, like, you know, it kind of made me think of that YouTube show Money and Violence, where like the acting is terrible, but the story is ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like it made me think. It made me think of that, and it also gave me Batman Returns vibes. You know, and it also reminded me as to like how crazy everyone was for this song.
Absolutely. Not just the song, the font to me stood out more as a kid. To this day, I love the font that was used in the film. You can talk about, again, a great cast. You got Jackie Cooper playing Perry White. All right. You got Terence Stamp as General Zod. Gene Hackman's back as Lex. Christopher Reeves, again, this movie put Christopher Reeves, one that flew over the cuckoo's nest was one of his bigger movies, but Superman is the one that actually put him really, really over.
Everybody knew him as Superman.
Everybody knew him as Superman. Exactly. Yeah.
When he died, I was Superman. I ain't nobody.
Nothing else but Superman. 54 million was this movie. $1 million less used than it made in the 1978 film, but also it grossed less. The other movie grossed 300 million worldwide. This came up short at $286 million worldwide. Was this film grossing? Just get back into the film a bit before we go to you, Freckles, and say he gave up his powers. He's got to go back and fight. He gets his powers back, and he comes back and he sees these three bad mother set your mouths sitting there. What can he do? The one thing Lex had said was, "It's one of him. It's three of you." You know what I mean? So do the math. And he steps. It's one of my favorite scenes. Like to step outside. Just things they did in the 80s and 70s that you don't do today. Imagine going to do a bar and tell them like step outside. Yeah, you're gonna get your ass beat before you get to the club. But I love this scene right here.
It's crazy how Russian they look.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
They like your man is looking like Zangief over there.
But you always mention this time of in America, right? I relate a lot of this to Drago and Rocky IV. Those things again, movies that come before when another movie is also great, they can't be great without taking the using something from the past because it was so great. Why not use it, right? And I think you're right in this film. And you always talk about this. Like I tried to mention the last film, the advertisement used in this film was at an all-time level between Pepsi and Marlboro. And things of that nature. But these fight scenes were, to me, again, as a child, amazing. As an adult, I get why my kids were not interested in watching these films. Okay, my kids will now watch Superman and Lois on the CW and love it. Right, absolutely. and that TV show to me is the most slow-moving paced superhero show I've ever seen. But they love it. When you go back and you watch this, to me, this was just so big, and they realized, oh, he has a weakness. He loves these people. So Superman gets smart. Let me get him out of Metropolis. They think he's running. Let me get you to the fortress. Get you here. Reverse the powers to you. Tell Lex, love this scene when he breaks his hand. And you see, oh, you were using them. And I love the part when Lois, she finally punches her and she goes, oh, you know what? You're a real pain in the neck. And she fights back. Superman powers we didn't know he had, right? Throwing off the shield as a net. Right, it's just insane powers in this movie. The special effects in this film even goes back to the diner, gets his revenge back on the guy that whooped his ass. Superman 2 to me lived up to everything in the first movie. And again, taking the writing made from The Godfather, it mimicked The Godfather again, and its continuation of the story immediately where it left off at, like The Godfather did in this film. And The Godfather arguably is one of the biggest movies ever made to this day. It took me 50 years to finally watch it. And when I finally watched it, I mean, the movie had been 50 years old, not me. I saw it. I went to my wife. I said, we talked about in the last doing Superman 1 about movies being older, right? And not having that they made it, to today's society. The Godfather still holds that good of a movie to me in the world. And I also think this one does as well.
It's funny because sometimes things age and then people, for some reason, make it bigger than what it is. Because I'll tell you one thing, the Sopranos is getting that level of nostalgia now.
Oh, I just watched it back last year.
And mind you, I remember it getting a lot of hype while it was playing.
Watched it live.
Not nearly as much as it is now. And I'm surprised by that because the way it ended was kind of bad. Same thing like Game of Thrones. So I don't know.
No, that Fade to Black had a lot of people mad when The Sopranos ended on Fade to Black. Absolutely. A lot more than even to me, Game of Thrones, and which both series I've watched in its entirety live and rewatched them. What's weird as I get older, I hate the comments you made is so true that something can get more love today than it did then. It's because now we have so much endless content and streaming. I hate when I ask my kids watch TV with me. They can. My kids, we had no choice but to know Anita Baker and Earth, Wind, and Fire and whatever musical group was played in their house because that's all there was. You know what I mean? You had one TV, 3 channels. when I was growing up.
Facts.
You had no choice. But nowadays, the content is so these people who make these apps, they have to bombard them with things. So people who are not like, oh, I'm a big Entourage fan, or like you just said, Game of Thrones and Sopranos, man. Where were you at when Sopranos were out watching them? Oh, you were probably like 8 years old. So now I get it. But we're talking about Superman 2. We're gonna take our break. Tell me we got coming up next week, and we'll be right back. The rest of this team's opinions, comments, thumbs up, thumbs down, and we get you guys up out of here, y'all. We'll be right back.
When it's time for adventure, it's time for Superman. A machine so powerful,
Baby! It's Daddy!
it can control the Earth. Reprogram Superman.
Thought you'd never get here.
Well, I hope you don't expect me to save you, because I don't do that anymore.
This time is going to be the best time of all.
I think that was the biggest money grab of them all.
We will talk about that one next week for sure. On that, we talk about you ain't never lied there, Bill. Let's go get the hottest comedian black man in the world. Let's go get Richard Pryor and put him in it. We'll talk about that next time.
That's like putting Dave Chappelle in the new one.
Yeah.
No, yeah, for real.
Dave Chappelle and Batman. And see what happened. Well, that's what he did with Chris Tucker and Fifth Element. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Let's just take him from there and put him in Fifth Element.
Right.
You know, but we're talking Superman 2. To me, this film still holds how great it is. And I will tell you that thought at the end of this show. Over to you, Freckles, and say your takes on Superman 2.
So my biggest takes from this one was definitely, I definitely personally enjoyed this one more than the first one. I liked how the story hit straight with, hey, we're gonna show you what the hell happened and why these people was in this doggone prison. Why was they just randomly screaming and floating away? This is why they betrayed. They messed up. They messed around and found out. And I love it when villains act like villains. That sneak attack with the kid, that got me jumped the first time. As soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, I'm hooked. I was like, oh, I'm hooked. Let's see how this plays out. Love the person who played as his name was Non. Loved how he played him. He was
Jack Halloran.
Yes, he was probably my favorite out of the whole movie. He was basically my favorite character. It was just, and it was so great. Like when you see people that don't use their voices, they use like that non-verbal communication to push a character, and he did it. Like everything was good in this movie. I definitely enjoyed. Of course, the score is always going to be great because it's Superman. Like, what else do you need? It's definitely a money grab. Just because of the fact that like you went so great in the first Superman, you have to come back and you had to run it back. One is Superman. 2, you made so much money from the first one, you have to run it back. You have to run back the second one. Second one was very detailed. I did enjoy how they were showing, what Lex was doing the whole entire time while he was arrested and locked up. And I think people didn't realize that the fact that they were playing chess was really like an Easter egg kind of move, where it was like it was showing you that this man is always thinking steps ahead. Like even though he's in jail right now, Superman has not technically defeated this man just yet. But yeah, overall, definitely enjoyed this one more than I enjoyed the first one. And yeah, I loved it.
The first one, again, it took from the opening scenes on Krypton to him actually setting foot in Metropolis as a grown adult. It was over an hour of the movie. And again, this to me, Superman 1, so speaking about that one, to me, that's what made that movie great, was all the compelling stories, that it was a true origin story. And you got to feel how he was and how he was taught and how he was brought up. And this movie, like I said, it was definitely written together. They had 2 already written as they were writing one, and they got the hashtag finish the story, go Birds. Shout out to my quarterback. But overall, I thought this film, again, from beginning to end, grossing what it grossed. These two movies together, Superman 1, Superman 2, grossed almost over $500 million, just $17 million short of $500 million. For me, again, thumbs up all the way in this film. And again, I'm taking my fandom out of it, but it's hard when I've watched this film for so long. What makes Man of Steel, and we're going to review that too. You're going to have me repeat this. I'm going to regurgitate it. The scene in Smallville, so great, was that it mimics so much of this film. This film, Superman 2, again, laid the blueprint for other things to come out, even though it took another 8 years before we saw the Batman in 1989.
Right.
Okay. But this film, the success of these 4 films that all came out before Batman came out, and we're talking about motion picture movies of comic book adaptations of superheroes. There was Superman, there was Batman, and that's all you had up until 19. Well, I'm sorry, I go back. If you want to count the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, they also came out in 89. And again, Vic brought up that in last week's, again, we did that review. We did.
When did the Hulk come out?
The TV show was already out, but it didn't have a movie. But you're right. Luke Ferrigno was playing the Hulk in 1975. Maybe on TV, they were you had Flash, you had Hulk, you had Batman, you had Spider-Man.
Nobody had a movie
shows, but no one had a movie until Superman. So for me, thumbs up all the way. Again, class movie. Donner does his job in this film, and this again continues to propel. It's why people still thought that Christopher Reeves. I think that Henry Cavill's the best Superman ever, but again, like Vic said in last week's show, evolution changes a lot of things. And for his times, I think of Christopher Reeves as Superman the way I think that most fans will never still disrespect Tobey Maguire. You don't knock him for what they gave him. For what they gave Tobey Maguire, he was the best Spider-Man for that time. Of course, he got surpassed, but Christopher Reeves will always be a lot of people's Supermans. And I think these two are definitely the reason why. Maybe not 3 or 4. We'll talk about them later.
I mean,
definitely 1 and 2 made him.
You know, it's sad. It's sad to say, but like, you know, unfortunately, he's becoming Bruno Sammartino.
He's passed away. He's already
Bruno. No,
I'm
saying is just that like his level of nostalgia. It's not, you know what I mean? I mean, mind you, this is the Hogan era, but Hogan is, you know, but still, like, he's becoming something that the kids are not going to remember. You feel me? Like,
not in my household, not around me.
No, but I'm saying though, but you know,
I don't think Christopher Reeves will ever be forgotten. Ever. I think he goes down, like you said. I'm surprised you ain't brought it up yet about the Jimmy Carter era.
The
world will never forget Ronald Reagan. The world will never forget Madonna. The world will never forget Elvis.
All right. How many Elvis songs do your kids know?
The ones I played for them.
Exactly. That's it. But they're not rocking them. You feel
me?
Of
course, my kids.
How many Kendrick Lamar?
My kids won't rock that either. My kids are different, so that's not a good example.
But how many Kendrick Lamar songs you know?
I know plenty of them.
Exactly. Exactly my
but
point.
It's on my era. I'm still living. I can go back to the Sugar Hill game.
But they're not gonna go back to. My thing is, they're not gonna go back to that. They're not gonna go watch this movie.
I disagree with that. I disagree with that. We say our kids. I think a nerd's a nerd.
Yeah.
Always go back and watch things.
If you a comic book nerd, you're watching this.
No, there's an exception to the rule, but my point is just that, like, generally, I don't think the kids are gonna go on Netflix and like, yo, let's go watch
Superman. No, it has to be like what we're doing right now, right? We're getting ready for the summer movies. It can't be 100%. It's nostalgic, but you mentioned that I couldn't allow you to do. It was blasphemous. Christopher Reeves will never be forgotten. You know why? Because people still remember fucking Patrick Swayze.
I mean, look,
that is true. That is true.
Not Christopher Reeves.
And
when everyone says Roadblock is the first movie you think about, when you think about Patrick Swayze, you're lying. It's not. It's Dirty Dancing. It's Eight Ghosts. That is it. Okay, Vic, your take on this movie? Thumbs up, thumbs down, man. If you got the best part, you know.
Well, you know, I found it interesting how the aliens looked mad Russian and had an American flag and a flag of the Soviet Union.
Yeah, oh my god!
And like I was getting Guile versus Zangief vibes throughout the whole movie, especially with that line right there. Like your man right there, like
Yeah,
I feel like the enemy in the world in this time.
So, like it's really given like the end of Jimmy Carter's presidency. Like like Cold War, especially that guy right there. Like he's just looking,
non
crazy Russian. Like this whole thing was interesting to say the least, as far as that part goes. But everything was everything was cool. I really liked Lex with his bald head. And just how conniving he was. And like I said before, the whole part of him giving up his powers, that felt like that was just interesting. I don't know. I feel like they were more creative with the storyline compared to now. And I don't know if that's because everything now is so short and like so instant gratification.
Again, I tell everybody, and I'm gonna get you off on your last thoughts. X2, once you saw X-Men 2, and the action started off the movie, and the public took to that movie, but you don't start off hot within 15-20 minutes, you're going to get a boo from the audience. You're going to get a boo from the audience.
Facts. And it makes it, and I don't know, and I think that, like I said before, that's one of the ways that I've changed, where it's like, you want to just get to it right away. As opposed to like having a slow build. They kind of got to it when it came to this because it was a continuation, right? So I kind of felt like I was reading the next episode of the comic book.
Right.
So, like, I don't know if it's because of my age that I got a lot of mixed feelings from this movie, but I'll still give it a thumbs up.
All right. Freckle Sensei, final thoughts, thumbs up, thumbs down, best words?
Definitely a thumbs up from me. Like I said, this one for me was better than the first one. I feel like the biggest takeaway for me was like I just enjoyed I enjoyed the acting aspect of this one versus the original one, versus the first one, only because of like the dialogue in the first one. And like I said, I had to give grace because it was the first. I mean, it came out in 1978. My parents was like 7 when this came out. So I had to give it grace. I had to give it some grace on that. I can't judge it as harsh as I would judge other current movies.
Yeah, it seemed like we did Fast Times at Ridgemont High, and executive consultant said, "Man, it was just a lot of really bad parts in this movie." Like, you look back at Fast Times at Ridgemont High, like, man, that was inappropriate. That's for sure.
Right. It's like you gotta kind of adjust yourself to the times because like certain stuff. You'll be like, oh my God, how'd they get away with this? Like, it's just certain things that, like, prime example, Van Wilder could never come out at all. Now, just
Van Wilder could, I think, something like certain lines from like The Hangover couldn't. Like Paging Doctor. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
that would be frowned upon there. But again, that's the world is different. We are.
Well, that means that Mr. Parker.
If you know better, if you know better, you do better.
You do better, yeah.
So that's what that saying is.
Because I was saying, Mr. Parker, the Parkers definitely would have got canceled. But like I said, overall, like I said, this gets a thumbs up. I loved it. I enjoyed it. Enjoyed the nostalgia of it, and definitely, like I said, I definitely like the dialogues in between these because you had different accents, you had different ranges, had different emotions. Unlike the first one where it was just.
I just realized he's sitting on top of the thing. I thought he was floating. Right? If you look at this picture, he's standing on top of the John, right?
Right.
No, like it doesn't like he's in it right. Like,
definitely giving Spider-Man vibes on that one.
Listen, thumbs up from all of us. Will Superman 3 get a thumbs up? I'll probably tell you right now, I've watched these movies, like I go through these every 2 years or so. I ain't gonna lie. I'm my parents. So, but will 3 and 4 hold up? Come back in a couple weeks odds if we go through Superman 1, the movie, Superman 2, Superman 3, Superman 4, Quest for Peace. Then Superman Returns, Brandon Ross version of this show, and then to me the greatest Superman movie of all time, Man of Steel. We review those as well, guys. So we'll catch you guys next week. Same soup time, same soup channel every Thursday, 8 o'clock right here on Unpopular Review Entertainment. Make sure you guys like, follow, subscribe. The links are in the description below. The links are there, including our Patreon account. Please, we have a Patreon that supports Unpop Review, Unpop Review Entertainment, and we want to support you for supporting us. So we want to thank you ahead of schedule for that. I am Mike Knox. That is Vic Damone Jr., as well as Freckle Sensei, and we will catch y'all next time. We are the Wolfpack. Peace, y'all.
Tonight's broadcast has been commandeered by the secret society No Man, National Organization of Men Against Amazonian Masterhood.
The world is on the brink of destruction.
Superman, can you hear me?
And Metropolis is in ruins.
Superman, help us!
Is there no one on this planet to even challenge me?
Superman!
General, would you care to step outside?
The adventure continues in Superman 2.